Right. Welcome back, everybody. It is episode 16 of Right to the Source. We were on a break last week, and while I moved house and took some time to do that, apologies if you can hear any drilling in the background. I'm still having work done in the house, but I am here as ever with the Chewbacca to my Han Solo, Mr. Ed Birkin. Ed, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks, Robin. A little bit disappointed and hurt about last week, if I'm honest. I mean, let's do the nice stuff first. Your
Okay,
new house looks beautiful. You
thank
don't have
you.
a baby chair behind you. I'm sure that piece of art up there, some trendy film slash music thing that
It is
cool.
actually, it's a very niche German film that I saw, enjoyed, and hunted down a poster for.
But taking a week off the podcast is no excuse. I was on holiday in Scotland. I got up and did one. Quite frankly, it's just laziness. And I think really
I,
goes back to the core of maybe your whole business. Who knows? But I don't think it's
I, I, I
acceptable
literally,
for a week
I literally couldn't. I literally didn't have anywhere to sit. I didn't have internet.
because
Even on the
there's no internet cafes
Friday.
in Bristol. There's no 5G that you could do your phone to.
And then have poor quality recording, shaky on a phone. Don't want to do that.
Oh, you're right, because drilling in the background makes it a much higher quality recording. Anyway, I think our
You can
listeners,
see me, you can hear me.
I mean, I don't think seeing you is necessarily advantageous, but I think our listeners can decide that really the work ethic comes from one part of this partnership, and then there's you. But anyway, we're here now, so we should probably make it a good one. While you were away sanding floors, or by the sounds of it, supervising other people, I was researching what NHL team to support.
Were you?
Hmm.
What did you decide on?
Again, I didn't just want to go with the most popular one, etc. It's difficult, and also who am I going to see? I pretty much nailed it down to two of them. With the Las Vegas Golden Knights, who I actually called you while you were busy to offer a considerable expense to myself to buy you a ticket to see them when we're there at G2E in Vegas.
That was kind of you.
None of our subscribers are willing to offer free tickets. We are open to that. It is not bribery, and so it's a case of them. And also because, let's be honest, that's the place I'll be most likely to be most often in the US, so
Yeah.
I can see the most. Or I do have a soft spot for the Edmonton Oilers.
Is it because of the name?
No, I was thinking, what's Oilers got to do with it, Ed? No, it's because they have the greatest player in the NHL at the moment, Conor McDavid. They've lost twice in the Stanley Cup final the last 2 years. I just really feel for him. He's got all the individual plaudits, but he needs a Stanley Cup to his name. I also think there's something slightly cool about supporting a Canadian NHL team because, let's be honest, all Americans are like, yeah, it needs to be American. It's like, no, I mean, look, it's Canada. It's where the great Wayne Gretzky spent most of his career.
Yeah, true.
But the chances of me ever going to Edmonton are pretty slim. So I had it down. I went on the NHL website, Matic thing, and there was a Edmonton Oilers top that was for sale, reduced. But when you clicked on it, it had the Las Vegas Golden Knights on the logo. So clearly, either the name of the piece or the pictures were mislabeled. So I thought if I order that, see what turns up, and whichever turns up, that's going to help make my decision.
So what turned up?
4 days after, but it turned up. I got an email saying it's out. After it was meant to turn up, I got an email saying it was out of stock.
So you're
I'm
no
going
closer to...
no closer. So I'm
Oh,
going with the Oilers, but maybe I'll give the Las Vegas Golden Knights a chance to win me over when we go and see them against the LA Kings on the 8th, I think, of October.
fantastic. It's very exciting.
I may still get you a ticket.
I'll need to check when I'm actually flying out.
Anyway, we were talking
Anyway,
about
yes.
we're going to do, instead of two countries, we were going to do a country and a company.
Yep. And then somehow we accidentally, and just to stress, this was not deliberate. We did not plan this.
We don't do any planning at all.
No, there is absolutely no planning or foresight in any of these episodes. We can guarantee you of that. But we accidentally picked a country and then an operator that is intrinsically linked to that country, which
makes our life easier.
That's true. That's true. It does look like we fixed it, but as I say, you can rest assured that there is we don't have the capacity to fix something like that. We're not that good at planning. So
or much else.
Yeah, or much else indeed. I think that's fair enough to
In
say.
fact, the one bit of planning you should have done, though, is give us a story of the week, because I've got my fact of the week.
Well, I've got a story of the week. It went out yesterday, so that'll be August 27th, and it's quite an interesting piece about Pixbet and their relationship with Flamengo, obviously the biggest football club in Brazil. I would say the Man United of Brazil, but we're recording in the wake of Man United losing in penalties to Grimsby, having been 2-1 down. Grimsby are, of course, in League Two. A league that, let's face it, Sheffield Wednesday once looked destined for, but it does seem that John Textor is riding in his white horse. And
Just to clarify for non-UK listeners, when we say League Two, that's not the second league down, that's the fourth division.
yeah, so that is a very low standard of football, and yet one that is still better than Man United currently. So really interested to see who they're going to get in as a manager next, and to see what becomes of their career after they leave in 18 months' time. But for the story of the week, Flamengo, their relationship with Pixbet, which was a local brand, obviously named for the primary method of payment in Brazil, launched even a Flamengo-branded sportsbook called Flabet, and that partnership over late payments has ultimately run aground, and they've now been replaced by Betano, I think the market leader. Funnily enough, actually, reading that piece, there was some interesting comments in there from a Mr. Ed Birkin of a company called H2 Gambling Capital.
Well, actually, one of them is my stat of the week, but because we've missed 2 weeks, I've got two stats, so you'll need to scramble for the second story.
We've missed 1 week.
And I've actually 1 week, so we need last week's stat of the week and this week's.
Okay.
And also, I've got a bonus stat. So the first stat of the week is 5-1. That's the score that Sheffield Wednesday beat Grimsby last year in the Cup. And we even had Ugbo scoring, which was his only goal of the entire season. The second stat of the week is 4. No, actually, 3 working days, I suppose, on a bank holiday. That's how long it took between me being interviewed by your star reporter and him actually writing something to go on your website. Again, probably goes back to the similar ethos of not doing a podcast while you're on holiday. But the main stat about, it's quite obvious, but just the scale. Okay, the scale of Betano and what they're able to do versus Pixbet. So Pixbet has about 2% market share in Brazil on our numbers. Exactly 2%. So we reckon they had net gaming revenue of about 316 million for the first 6 months. Betano is a clear market leader, and they've got well over 20% market share. Although Betano was rumoured to be paying 250 billion Brazilian real, which is like one of the, not the biggest in Brazilian sport, but one of the biggest globally in football. That is double what Pixbet were paying. Even though they're paying double of what Pixbet were, it equates to only 3.5% of their net gaming revenue. It equated to 20% of Pixbet's. Well, bear in mind, sponsorship is going to be only one part of your marketing budget. You've got the tax rate, etc. that's come in of GGR and all the tax, not just the 12% GGR tax going up to 18%. It's all the other taxes that people reckon equate to near 50%. You just cannot run, even though they are the 11th biggest operator, Pixbet. It's just not a viable business to run when you've got one sponsorship taking 20% of your net gaming revenue. So to put it into perspective, because I had to explain this for your reporter in more simple terms, let me get this. It was actually a well-written piece, in fairness, Jim. So for Betano, despite them paying double, it would take them just 13 days of operating in Brazil to cover the year's cost of their Flamengo sponsorship.
Wow.
Pixbet, despite it only being half the price, it would take them 72 days of operations. So that's just the difference in scale and what these big operators are able to do in terms of their marketing power. That said, I know it gives them an advantage in that thing. Then again, for them to, what they will have to get out of this to make to kind of move their top line is substantially higher than what Pixbet would have. So for Betano to get 5% growth, then it's going to be a hell of a lot more money than it is for Pixbet or one of the smaller ones. So really the crux of it was you can, yes, if the financial issues are correct that are rumoured at Pixbet, it doesn't mean that if you're not a top 10 operator, you can't run a successful business in Brazil. It just means you can't be spending over 100 billion reais a year on one sponsorship deal. That's just
I mean, well, that's an insane amount of money, especially proportionately. And I mean, it's interesting that considering there's been a lot of talk about localization in Brazil, and obviously there are, excellent local executives, and I've said before, one of the key differentiators is having these really kind of super intelligent people, like just thinking about the likes of Alex Fonseca, who we met in Rio, or Hugo Baumgartner, like these kind of recognisable, well-known, well-established figures. But really it is ultimately its international kind of means that does seem to be winning the day in these early stages.
Yeah, and they're the ones, the four top operators. You've got Betano, Bet365, Sporting Bet, Superbet. Superbet came a bit later, but the other three, they've been around in the market, especially Bet365 and Sporting Bet, but Betano's been around a few years as well. They've been around for a while. But yeah, they have built a good local presence. And I suppose when the Brazilians, you're hearing saying, you need to be like a local operator will win out, and foreign operators don't understand Brazil, they won't do anything. Yeah, they have a point if they just do it as a foreign operator, and we saw that with Sportingbet. They lost huge market share a couple of years ago when they didn't have anyone locally on the ground. I mean, it was just a completely naive operating with, and Tain admitted, it's like, messed up. But if you have a good local team with the know-how and, quite frankly, monetary backing to run at a loss if you want to for however long in these markets, leveraging the technology and expertise and financial power of being a big global business obviously gives you an advantage over local ones if you're willing to admit that you need to get local talent and localize your business, which these big guys have.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But that's not about Cambodia. Let's talk about Cambodia.
We're glossing over the fact that you don't have a second story of the week.
Well, no, I mean, what would I probably put forward as the second story? It's really more of an ongoing series. So obviously in New York, the downstate casino hearings are happening at the moment. And I think the coverage that Jess Marquez is doing, that really, it's kind of fantastic. In each of these ones, from, Caesars bringing out Jay-Z for their proposal. I think Resorts World brought out Nas. To more recently, about the, like the Bali situation, which obviously I touched on in my last story of the week. And then, the potential for the Coney Island casino. I mean, I think that is really a series worth following. It's a really kind of interesting kind of ongoing series of developments in the market, and highly, highly recommend those articles. So I wasn't glossing over that fact. I was actually just keen to keep up the pace, keep things moving, keep things snappy, and to talk about Cambodia.
Okay, well, look, Cambodia. Let's start. So, what do we have? 19, I believe, end of 2019, it happened. They banned online gambling, particularly from, well, as you were saying, maybe pressure from some of their neighbours.
Yep. Because there was also pressure on the Philippines around that time, and there was a moratorium on licensing in each country for online, and then it was President Duterte at that time in the Philippines came out and said, absolutely not, this is our kind of economic development, kind of thing, we're not bowing down to pressure. Whereas Cambodia said, yeah, we are putting a moratorium, it's bringing criminality, it's bringing kind of like economic hardship, it's not something that, we want to sustain. So that was obviously shut down, but what still exists? I mean, I think there are still going to be illegal kind of operations. And I think a lot of the problems that dogged the POGOs, the Philippine offshore gambling operators, I think they also are were prior to, this kind of ban, were affecting the Cambodian operators. So these things are going to be sticking about, and there are kind of like scam centres where essentially these kind of a sweatshop where people are running kind of online scams. So these things still exist, but I mean, what exists legally now is obviously the land-based casino sector. Now, we'll leave aside the capital, Phnom Penh, because that's very much linked up with Nagacorp, which we'll talk about later. Again, didn't plan this, just total serendipity. But the tourism hubs, so like the border towns, generally that's where you see a lot of the casinos being located. I don't know, I'm sure you've got the exact numbers of properties. but they're mainly based in the tourist kind of areas of the country, kind of like around the borders. There's even some talk about, the recent kind of border dispute with Thailand being kind of linked to kind of gambling operations. But I'd be interested, first of all, to hear about kind of like more of like the size of this market, because I don't really know that much about it, I'll be honest. But also how it's kind of snapped back from the kind of COVID era, because obviously a lot of the visitation was from China and mainland China. That was obviously very much limited and locked down for a longer time than anywhere else. So that had a knock-on effect on the Cambodian casino sector. But how has that recovered, in the years since?
Well, if you take a step back, 2011, you were probably still trying to make your life as a chef at the time. So
I was at EGR at that time. I was in the industry. Yeah, I was at EGR, grubbing away,
Oh, that's when journalism was done, where news stories would be out the same day. Fast-paced work, and moved on from that. So 2011, there were 27 casinos. By 2014, this has increased to 59 casinos. By 2015, this is up to 75. 2017 is up to 98. 2018 was 150. And 2020 is 193. So you're right, a lot of these are all on the... And now there's actually 195 casino licenses. In fairness, 15 have expired. There's it's about 180 casinos. Now, they are foreigner only, and you say most of them are in on the kind of border area for tourists. But the big issue has been, so yes, in 2024 tax revenues went up 85% versus 2023, so it has started to come back. But the big issue in Cambodia was the elimination of junkets, much like in Macau. So yes, you've got... Okay, so let's look at the Nagacorp in the capital, because we need to say, yes, it's 1 out of 180, but I think we need to put in perspective how big this is.
Okay.
So, and this is why we think Cambodia will not it won't reach pre-pandemic levels. Okay, so Nagacorp represents, out of 185 casinos or so, it's Nagacorp, Naga World Integrated Resorts, the only one in the capital, and that means we think Nagacorp is about 55% of the total market. So total tax revenue of $63 million. You see how that's split. Nagacorp has a slightly lower tax rate, but effectively implies they had GGR of $543 million. All the others combined had GGR of $414 million. So $957 million US dollars total. So just under $1 billion. 55% of that is Nagacorp. Now, within them, in 2019, junkets accounted for 70% of their revenue. So suddenly, out of 70% of 55% of the market, was all coming from junkets. In 2024, junkets represented under 10%. So to put this into context, Nagacorp, between 2019 and 24, their total GGR was down 68%. Mass market tables were down 15%. Mass market machines were down 20%, but VIP was down 88%. And without junkets, that is just not... They are not going to be able to recover that in any time period. We did numbers out to 2030. We don't get them getting back to pre-COVID levels. So yes, you could get the political border wars aside. There's no reason you can't see a full recovery in all the other 184 casinos. But in terms of, the main one of that's just... They just can't recover without junkets, in our view.
Okay, and that leads us quite nicely on to talking about them a bit more, because that property is the biggest... Well, it's the only integrated resort in the country, and they're building another, like, Naga 3, I think. It's going to be the tallest tower in Cambodia, or at least in the capital. But recent results for that business have been relatively good. Like, it feels like it has kind of snapped back. But is that really just the post-COVID recovery, and it's just always going to kind of like stay below those levels? Because I mean, obviously in Macau, you lose that kind of VIP segment, but then you have that premium mass segment of kind of slightly higher spenders. So you don't see that kind of element coming to Cambodia.
Yeah, so we obviously will expect mass market. Still down in 2019. We expect that to recover, and then it's what you class as VIP versus mass. Before it was pretty... There's had its two, and now it's kind of like, as you say, in Macau, we call it premium mass market. So yeah, that will help. But when you're... say when it's 70% of your revenues of junkets and then goes down to 10%, how long is it going to take you to be able to get this premium mass market? And I mean, look at it another way, 30% of your revenues was mass market, say, or non-junket. Now you're going to have to triple that to make up the 60% that you've lost from the junkets. 70's gone down to 10. It's not easy to triple your mass market revenues. Now, let's say building the new tower, etc., can help. We expect to see continued growth from here, but I don't see in the foreseeable future on a 1 to 5 year view them getting back to 2019 levels, personally.
Okay.
But let's ask a question that you should be able to answer about Cambodia. You've got the capital, which I would not have done. I'm not going to ask you about the population because we know you're terrible. Yeah. Can you remember currency and national dish?
Current national dish. See, this is the thing. I mean, like I brought up having eaten in a Cambodian restaurant when you asked me this. Is it alok something?
Yeah, it's a national dish of creamy spiced coconut fish curry, or sometimes chicken or eggs, that's steamed in banana leaves.
Sounds quite nice. And the currency baht is Thailand. Cambodia is
dollars US.
What's that?
Dollars in the US. I thought we were just going through other currencies.
No, I was just thinking. So baht is Thailand, dong is Vietnam, Cambodia is, I don't know, what is it?
Cambodian riel.
Riel.
R-I-E-L.
R-I-E-L.
Right, should we look at the country for next one?
Yeah, what are we going to do next week?
Well, we're not doing Suriname, if there's one that we remotely know. Belgium,
let's do Belgium.
Capital?
Brussels.
Currency?
Euro.
And national dish?
I mean, I want to say mille frites, because that's what I associate with Belgium.
I mean, you're close. Fries.
Really?
Just fries. Don't even need them all.
No mille, just frites.
Right. I'm going to go on to the supplier tab. No, we'll stick on the operator tab. So again, a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3. So a number between 1 and 11, and then a number between 1 and 7.
All right, so 11 and then 4.
Right. Let's just check this. Yeah. Zeal.
Okay.
You know who Zeal are?
Yeah. Lottery brokerage business.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see what we have in the latest company update.
There's loads of coverage of Zeal on iGamingBusiness.com, so we can definitely provide a lot there.
Appointed a new CEO in July.
Yep. Helmut Becker is stepping down.
Okay. All right, we've got Zeal and we've got Belgium.
Yep, Zeal and Belgium. So join us next week when we talk about Zeal, when we talk about Belgium, when hopefully...
And I wasn't going to do this, but I think we've got a couple of minutes. I'm just going to get into a rant.
Okay.
I'm going to get into data-based rant. Not
right, so we've got a data. All right, so instead of wrapping up, we've got a data-based rant. What data are you ranting about this week, Ed?
Yeah, well, I wasn't planning on doing, but it's been more numbers have been brought to my attention. And look, we do not have a monopoly on gambling data in the market. Not all of our numbers are perfect. We have actual data, we have estimates, and we try our hardest to make all the estimates as good as possible. But there are numbers out there, like the crypto casino one we talked about before, which you will never know the exact number, but there's enough evidence out there, there's enough stuff out there that you can logically work through and say, this seems a plausible number. Or when a number comes out and you have so many people in the industry go, that just seems so implausible, it looks ridiculous. Now, may not be wrong. I say that, probably got lawyers, could be that everyone else is wrong. Okay. To me, there's another number that's just come out that was brought to my attention by a subscriber, actually, a trade association, who you think that them having a number out there that showed this a large illegal market is helpful to them. To say, look at the issues we're having with the blue one. Even they were like, this number just looks ridiculous and is really unhelpful for us. And to me, it does not pass any test of plausibility. But, it could be wrong. So if the people who put this out want to come on and say, we think you're wrong, and this is how we get there, because at the end of the day, we want the right number out there. Okay. I think the important thing for the industry is have the right data, be that ours, be that someone else's. If ours are completely wrong, then, hey, come here and we'll be like, shit, we need to change our figures because we are clearly out by a lot. But this is suggesting that over 70% of online revenues in Europe was from illegal sites last year.
Right.
And to me, that just makes no sense. It's not even, to me, plausible when we talk about the biggest mess of a market being Germany. And people will disagree about what how much is onshore or offshore. But the general view is that 50 to 75 or so percent is illegal. And if you listen to regulators, they'd say they're like 80% onshore. So let's go to the extreme of that. What you're pretty much saying is that in Germany, which everyone agrees is the worst market there is still at the top end of estimates, let's say 70% illegal. And you're saying the whole of Europe's that. I mean, look, Europe generated the legal market. Most of this is reported, okay? So there's not much scope for being wrong on this. Betting and gaming, forget lottery. 2024, 42.5 billion, okay, of revenue. So we'll forget the 71% or 70% of it, because it also says black market bookers, casinos rating 70 billion. So that number doesn't actually match up. That would make 62% offshore. So forget the onshore numbers, just don't appear to be what's reported. But even that, so that's saying, that the offshore market is 1.65 times bigger than the onshore market. I mean, if you actually take it as being at 71%, then clearly it's more than double the size of the onshore market. And you look at the major offshore operators. I mean, okay, name the biggest that comes to mind operator that is not locally licensed in many European markets.
So like Stake, someone like that.
Okay. Stake reported their GGR, $4.7 billion US. So what's that euros? Let's say, I don't know, the exchange rate now, 4.5 billion euros, something like that, yeah?
Okay, yeah.
Now, we know, at least when we look at it, we know quite a lot of that's Canada. I mean, look, their biggest person is Drake, yeah? In Canada, they're huge in Canada. We know a big Brazil market, yeah? We know we hear, like, look at the web traffic, the stuff in Asia and stuff. So based on that, a lot less than half of that is in Europe. Okay. Some of that is also regulated, at least it wasn't in the UK to a certain point. So let's be really generous and say 2 billion of that, is stake. Okay? So that's 2 billion out of 70. And you go, crypto casinos. Well, we know the stake's half the crypto market just by looking at blockchain, stuff like that. And actually stake's crypto is a lot less than that. So stake's crypto part of that is 30% of it, okay? So 600 million. So you double that. The crypto itself is about 1.5 billion. Let's say crypto casinos, 2 billion. Let's just be generous. 4 billion is now crypto casinos in general. Right. So you've still got another 66 billion somewhere to come from. Now, could be right. I could just be completely misunderstanding this. And all of our data is wrong, and everyone else I speak to. If you want to get them on to try and explain the fine. But to me, it appears this is more data out there that is just completely implausible. While the size, going back to the Brazil point, while it may seem that having a high illegal market number is helpful to onshore operators in their arguments, if you have a number that says this, they're just going to look at it and go, are you serious? Show me some proof. Show me some proof, or you're clearly just not being serious and we're not going to have a conversation. And that's why someone came to me and said, can we have some, we actually want some numbers that we can use that are plausible for someone to make an argument. Because this...
Okay, well, I mean, it's something that I think, it's like, obviously we're not naming the company, but I think it's worth offering a right of reply. So let's ask them. Let's see if we can get them on. Let's go from there. Okay.
I mean, we've got an unofficial one at the moment. Should we just make it an official? You know how we were trying to make some structure. So now we've got then random country, random company.
Yeah.
We might as well just do an Ed's data rant because there's enough out there weekly that upsets me, and then we can just piss off lots of different people, and no one will feel victimised.
Well, that's equal opportunities offending, and then that also brings in guests because, as we have people who
want to sue us.
Yeah, or who want to write a reply.
As a journalist, as a quasi journalist that you are, because this stuff gets brought to our attention because it gets published. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So the crypto number got published in the FT. This has been in Reuters. How much? I suppose how much can you fact check stuff rather than trusting, because they're well-known, pretty well-known brands that are giving you, one of the brands reports but also it's not just like a random company that's providing this data. Known in the industry. Do you have to take stuff at face value, or? No,
we want to verify it. So you'd ask around, you try and get kind of like similar figures for, or kind of like equivalent figures. You'd then ask about methodology, and you'd basically kind of like piece that sort of thing down. So that's really how we go about it. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to be back after a week off. Apologies if there's any drilling sound in this. And we will be back next week talking about... What are we talking about?
We are probably having another rant of something, and we are talking about Belgium.
Yep.
And zeal.
Well remembered. So we'll see you in episode 17 of Right to the Source with Robin Harrison and Ed Birkin in the next one.